Hey, this is William Tincup and Ryan Leary, and you are listening, hopefully watching, in the Inside the C-Suite podcast. We got Joelle Smith from First Advantage on today. First of all, Ryan, how you doing?
I am fantastic because this is tag teaming again.
Yes,
And
it
I like
is.
when we have 2-on-1. Yeah, this is good.
This is good.
Two
As you're,
Philly, one Dallas.
That's
You know,
right.
I
we're
usually
like,
play the fight song
uh,
around
it's
here.
yes, he does.
It's yeah,
And here's the deal. It's
you know, we could do that, right?
Cool. That's fun.
Should we just
On
let it play the whole
royalty.
time? We could do
Love
that.
it.
she knows
Love
the
it.
words. She knows the
Go
words.
birds. Of course I know the words. Born and raised in
Oh,
Philly.
When
oh my
when he
goodness.
says stuff we don't want, Joel, I'll just play it, or
All
I'll
right.
play a "Go Birds," and then
Perfect.
it'll just mute him out. It'll be like
Excellent.
his censor.
Love
You know,
it.
kicking a Cowboys fan is like, really, it's like kicking somebody that's elderly. You don't
No,
need to
it's
do
still fun. No, this is still
It kind
fun.
of is. The
Yeah.
jabs just, they don't know they're not bad.
it. No, no. I tell Ryan this every summer is the same thing. Coming out of the spring, same thing. It's like this is the year. This is the year. You get in the preseason. This is the year. You get into the first 5 or 6 games. Usually by week 7, we're already talking. Like sports talk radio is already talking about next year's pick. Like what we're going to get in the draft.
Yeah.
It's
The
every
draft.
year
That's
for
right.
30 years. It's the same bit, same bit. Would you do us a favor and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure, absolutely. Well, super happy to be here. Thanks so much for having us. I am Joelle Smith, as you said, the president of First Advantage. First Advantage is a publicly traded company on NASDAQ, and we just made an acquisition. So
I
we're,
was
we're a
about
little
to
busy,
say,
but I'm super happy to be here and talk about
little
it.
little tiny acquisition. Good gosh,
A little
a little
bit.
bit, a little bit. That's Sterling, right? We're talking about the
It is.
acquisition of Sterling.
Hmm.
Yep,
That was a fun. We have a news show on Sundays, and we recorded because you announced, I think, in February or January
that's
somewhere,
right.
and then you closed the deal somewhere recently.
November 1st, yep.
So it takes what it takes like 6 or 7 months for everything to clear. Is that what it is?
Yeah, we have, there's a lot of regulatory requirements because it's two publicly traded companies. So gotta follow all the rules and make sure all
Yes.
the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Lawyers and investment bankers get paid. Yep, totally get it. Totally.
Indeed.
That was I don't
Indeed.
know I don't know where that came from. Well, okay. So current role. How long have you been in your current role?
I've been the president here about 3 years.
Wow. Okay. All righty. Well, Ryan, why don't we go backwards?
Let's do it, Joel. It's time to learn about you.
All right. Buckle up. No, just kidding. Scrappy Philly girl coming at
I was
you.
about to
Let's do it.
say,
Yeah,
where does
yeah.
this go
So
next?
now now were you born? You're born and raised
I
in
was.
Philly, right? You're not a
Yeah,
transplant.
yeah, right outside, so I'm not technically in the city, but
Yeah, it's still
yes.
the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
Yeah, still the same. Still the same.
Yes.
Still the same. So why don't we let's go back towards college. Did you stay local for college? Let's talk about that, and then we'll jump into into what makes you work here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I stayed in Pennsylvania, went to East Stroudsburg, so state school. So didn't really kind of fly the coop, if you will, until well after that. So very much stayed in and around the tri-state area. But yeah, funnily, I went to school for biology and marine science.
Like, that
And
totally makes
so
sense.
nothing to do
To,
with technology, AI,
Yeah.
data, or sales, which I'm in now. So it's been a journey.
when I went to Alabama for undergrad, the career advisor told me 1 in 4. Now this is 91, so a lot of data since then. But she said, listen, 1 in 4, you work 25%. You work in your major. That's what the stats are right now from graduation.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so really, it doesn't matter. And so that's what she's saying. It doesn't matter. You want to get a business degree? Great, get a business degree. You want to do, and then she said, what are you good at? I'm like, well, I've always liked art. I've painted since I was really young. She goes, do art. Go do art history, art studio. Go do that because it'll be easy for you. I'm like, all right. So I did an art history degree. Again, didn't, and I helped the stats out because I'm not working in my major. So there's that. So where is that school related to Philadelphia?
It's
Uh,
about 2 hours north. It's in the Pocono Mountains.
oh, pretty.
We
Okay.
called it 13th grade, is what we
That's
called it.
very true. Yep. Yep.
Well,
Exactly.
right.
And
What?
not a knock on the education, it's because everybody went there. If you went there, you went to Temple. That was
Yeah.
Right.
kind of the
Ryan went to
Yeah.
Temple.
Very popular.
yeah
There you go.
yeah. I wanted Strasbourg, but wasn't allowed to go there.
Yeah, I got the
Yeah,
same thing. Like,
yeah,
why are you going so far away? I'm like,
yeah,
it's two
yeah.
hours.
Go to
What?
Temple, and
Exactly.
live at Ambler.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. The community
Yeah,
college is
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
But
All good.
no, I decided I want a little something more. So
Yep,
I pushed the envelope,
got it.
and really trying to, set the tone. I was actually the first in my whole family to graduate college, so that was
Hmm.
kind of broke the mold there. It was,
That's very
you know,
cool.
what are
That's
you
very and
doing?
some pressure.
What is this college thing?
Yeah. Well, my dad was the first, so like I get it, and everyone asks the same questions. Is like, why would you go to college? Why would
Yep.
you even do that? So I get it. Well, with a biology degree, what did you want to do? What was the dream at that particular?
The standard, let's, go play with dolphins and study the ocean and, maybe we'll, head into the nursing or pre-med or whatever. Like, I had no idea. I was
Yeah,
17 and I had no clue. I know I didn't want to stay in the area where I grew up, not because I didn't love the people there, but I wanted more. I was curious. I wanted
right.
to travel. I wanted to get outside, and I just had this bug. I had to kind of see what it was all about. And of course, there were no jobs for East Stroudsburg landlocked, graduates coming out of, with a marine science degree
Right,
that made
right.
any kind of money. So I went back to the drawing board and got a job as tech support, supporting a local. It was kind of local, so it was Wharton Econometric Forecasting Associates. They had an economic forecasting modeling software. And they're like, we need somebody to answer the phones and to help people with their tech problems. I was like, okay, I can do that.
Gotcha.
So came out of the gate making, 11, $12 an hour. And I was like, all right, when can I get my first apartment?
Yeah,
And I'm
In
like, wow,
in
I
two year
can't
in two
pay for
years.
anything with it. Right? Yeah, I'm like, this is not enough to live on. I was like,
Uh,
what is this farce that you go to
isn't that
college and all of a sudden you make money and you can
isn't
do
it the
stuff?
shock? I think we probably all had the same shock. The shock that you
sure.
get
Yeah,
your tech and you look at your check, and you're like, is, is something wrong with?
Yep.
Did they do
yeah.
the
I,
math
I like
right?
the videos.
Yep. No,
I like the
totally.
videos of people when they give their kids the first paycheck and
Yeah.
what is this and what is
Yeah.
this and
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Now go
yeah,
to the Apple store and try and buy something. Good luck.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's hilarious. But it got you into
Yeah.
tech. I mean,
It did. It
all
did. I
things
learned a lot.
you have to in
yeah.
tech
So
support. You have to learn on. I mean, you because they're asking you questions. You've actually got to learn it. Learn it. You can't just kind of
Yep.
fluff your way through that.
Yep,
Ryan, you
and
were
you have
about
to
to
be
ask a
sharp
question.
on your feet too, which I learned. I learned a lot. I asked a lot of questions, learned a lot from a lot of different people. I learned a lot about software. I learned about the underpinnings of how it works. I learned, how to use it properly, how to, set it up, install it. Back in those days, it was, the CD-ROM, like
inserting the
load with
CDs.
the auto-exec.bat, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
We're
Oh
gonna
Yeah,
mail
man,
you the
so,
CDs. Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
great.
And
The
that's
fact that you just said autoexec.bat, that just tells us everything we need to know.
So
I'm dating myself here.
we're
There's
yeah.
nothing
tracking.
else
No, because we
we need
Yeah.
had
to
to do
know.
the same stuff. I don't even think they
Yeah.
called it
Yeah.
on premise. I mean, it was on premise software, of course, but I don't remember them calling it that. I just remember them saying it's
No. Well,
software.
because there was no cloud at the time, right?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
it
Right.
didn't need a name. It was just what it was.
It was just
Yeah,
on
we're
the
just gonna
CD,
send you
came in the little
CD-ROMs.
envelope.
That's
You've got
right.
one of 10. Oh, okay. I'll
Yep.
just sit here and
Yep.
load these CDs. Good.
Yep.
Yeah, and this
Yep.
is what you're getting paid for. See?
That's right.
So Joelle, let's talk about school for a little bit. So I
Yep.
know we want to get into your career, but and this might be more therapeutic for me. My oldest is 17, and she's
Ah.
starting, right, the
Yep.
college journey at this point.
Yep.
Couldn't we just drove to Maine this week,
Oh, nice.
and we
Beautiful.
passed Yukon. I said, let's just go visit. It's like right off the exit.
Hmm.
No, it's too cold up here. Like, I can't
Mm-hmm.
even get them to look.
She's
But
come down to Texas.
yeah, she can stay there with you. How about that? So the question I have is so many people, a lot of people that listen to this show
Hmm.
will be right in that 20 to 25 age range.
Sure.
And so they're in college or they're in process of graduating and
Okay.
they're kind of at that crossroads of what do I do? What
Mm.
do I
Yep.
do now, right? I went for engineering, but
Hmm.
I don't love engineering or I can't find an engineering job. How should they approach that? What's your advice there?
Yeah, I mean, so you gotta hustle, and you
Hmm.
gotta
100%.
you gotta. So doing what you love, of course, is important. But the reality is, most people don't get that luxury.
Right.
But you have to learn how to appreciate what you have and learn the hustle, because the hustle gets you the job, it gets you the opportunity, it opens up the doors. And that's with anything, with a college application or with changing
Yeah.
majors. What I found the college to do for me was it really gave me discipline and it showed me work ethic. So, I always heard about it from like my parents or from, aunts and uncles and other people that kind of influenced me growing up. But until you get to college and you're there benchmarked against all the other kids and you're like, huh, all right. So, like,
Yeah.
showing up to class is really important. Not missing Friday mornings because you were out Thursday night doing
Yeah.
whatever. Um, the kids that show up every Friday morning for the 8 o'clock class and
Hmm.
do the work and put the effort in and go to the office hours,
Yep.
they learn how to learn.
Right.
And when you do that, you can apply whatever you need to do for your future goals, whether it's in your major or out of your major. And employers pick up on that. They like high learning agility. And that's something that I kind of always embraced and learned over the years that gets you really far. The
Yeah.
degree confirms that you know how to learn. Whether or not you can continue to build on that learning agility is up to you and your career path and where you go. But as long as you tell a good story for why you did
Yeah.
what you did and where you're going and why you want to go there, employers it'll resonate. And they're looking for that extra something because it's a hard job market out there right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love how you said that. Learn to learn, right? If you can get there on a Friday after a Thursday night, wild night out, you're gonna learn to learn, and you're
Hmm.
gonna have that agility to do so.
See, my
So
my only difficulty with that is yes, and it's more of an improv thing. Is I think the degree is you're illustrating that you know how to complete something.
yeah,
Yeah,
The
true. To
eh,
finish.
that's
the
what Rocky
people
said.
that the people that did funny, the people that actually did the Friday morning, went to office hours, etc. What that showed me was they know how to play the game. It wasn't so much. I mean, learning, yes, but I also know a lot of people that went through that process and they just knew the game, and so they would get the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, they'd learn, but it wasn't about learning. It was about learning the game of learning. I don't know if that
It's
makes
still that
sense.
takes a lot to get there
Yeah.
on a
Oh no,
Friday.
you got to be disciplined. I mean,
Yeah,
to Joel's point, you've got to be able to be disciplined to be able to play the game.
yeah.
So yeah, I love it. Anyhow, Ryan, I interrupted you.
No, I'm just that's what Rocky said. He show up on time, reasonably well for 4 years, and get a task done. That's what they wanna. They
Yeah,
see.
That's
definitely the completion. But when you
yeah,
show up and have the learning
yeah,
to, like, I don't know if it's the game, but you learn how to complete the task at hand, right? How do
Right.
I pass this test? How do I withdraw early enough to pivot and go
right,
somewhere else? Or
right.
how do I double down on this, right? Like, I just learned that I love this topic. Like, what is this, major? And should I change? and figure that out. So learning about you, learning about what you like, what you don't like, and being able to, complete it. I fully agree with that. Definitely the completion is key. Whether you're skating by with D's for diploma or whether you're nailing it with, all A's, like go for it, but you got to
Yeah.
finish for sure.
One
So
quick follow up here,
yeah.
William, and then I'll let you jump in. So, Joel, you just said something that caught my attention. You said withdrawal. So
Mm-hmm.
you said, know when to withdraw on time and pivot. So as an executive,
Mm-hmm.
a student, a college graduate comes in, they're talking with you about their career, maybe for a position, not that you'd interview them, but how do they, how does that resonate with you as an executive to say, if I'm a student, yes, I withdrew from my classes, but this is why, and I have a story. Does that resonate better with you than someone who just powered through it to get it done?
It depends on the story, but honesty and integrity go really far, especially
Yeah,
this day and age.
100%.
And for me, as the types of you know non-learning things that you have, the things that are built inside of you from an early age, that honesty and integrity is important. So if somebody is honest and says, I withdrew, I did this, it wasn't for me, here's
Right.
where I found inspiration though, and here's where I'm going. Or maybe there was a tragedy or an issue or something within their family
right.
and they had to try something else. There's a lot of organizations that are really trying to look for people who need just a little bit of extra help, not
Hmm.
because they want to hire that for any particular reason, but it's just more about the hunger and the drive there is usually a little bit, more formidable and drives them to, work just a little bit harder and take a little bit more passion into kind of how they're bringing what they're bringing to the table. And for me, that's really important than somebody who did complete it, doesn't have a story, is just kind of like, what's in it for me type of thing, which is
Right.
which is possible, and there's a lot out there. But it resonates more for me because that person will be a strong player, but also an influencer in driving the right type of culture you want at your organization. So for me, that's a twofer. You get a hard worker and somebody to drive passion and culture. So that's a value.
I love that. When I was hiring a lot, my three things that I would look for in a candidate was passion in anything, non whatever passion
Agreed.
that they
Yep.
have, ambition, some level of they want to see what's next, they want to understand what's next, and kind of how to get to the next place, and also intelligence in a form of IQ and EQ. So not just
Mhm.
one or the other, but just a form of
Agreed.
like I can't do anything with somebody that's stupid. And no offense to anyone that's stupid, but I can't build upon that. It's clay, and it's just not good clay. So I found myself when I hired a lot looking for those types of things. And again, IQ, that's great, but if they have no EQ, it cancels out. Same thing with EQ.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh, um,
I agree.
so So what did you do after you got bit by the software bug? What did you do next?
Yeah, well, then I got bit by the I want my own place bug. And help desk isn't going to get there.
No.
So yeah, so then I started asking a bunch of people at work. I was like, what do you do? What's your job? Like, I'd look in the parking lot and I'm like, oh, there's some nice cars here. Like, let's find out who's driving that car and find out what it is that they do. So yeah, moved up the ranks, learned the software really well, did training, moved more into product. So really trying to understand kind of the product strategy, product management, that kind of stuff. And then once I went through that, I realized the big money was in sales. So I
100%.
was like, yeah, all right, now I'm not gonna, build the product, test the product, do that stuff. I'm gonna sell it. And that's where, those commission checks started coming in, and I was like, all right, this works for me. So my passion was really trying to create something for myself,
Yeah, of course.
and really gain a little bit of independence, financial independence.
We'll also prove all the naysayers that you went to college for a reason to prove them a bit wrong in a
Yeah,
sense. Sales, at least in my experience, is kind of a great equalizer. You know,
it
I
is.
you know, to you race, gender, religion, all that stuff. At a certain point, people can care about those things, but they care about quotas more.
They sure do. Yep.
So if you hit your quota, fantastic. Doesn't matter. Like that's all that really matters for a lot of
Yeah.
chief revenue officers. Did you find that when
Yeah.
you were going through that process? Was that
Absolutely. Yeah. And it was interesting because it was like, before you went into when I was doing it, it was before the whole big diversity and inclusion was
right?
a thing.
Right.
And where I started was economic forecasting software. So it was naturally in like R&D for financial services institutions and capital markets. So I then got an entree into the capital markets industry, which had like thousands and thousands of women, and especially
Yes.
young girls, all over the place. There was, I was like the only woman in any, meeting, in any team, in any sales pitch, and anything like that. And it's a tough industry to be in. But it was really, I learned a ton, kind of going back to that learning. And it really allowed me to kind of see the best of both worlds of, what is it that kind of going back to that EQ, IQ, like you can be really smart, but if you can't read the room when you walk in to see kind of what's happening and what's not being spoken about, like you've lost your opportunity right there out of the gate. And
Yep.
so that was something that I learned, to kind of hone through the help of obviously some mentors and a bunch of other folks to really kind of help take that to that next level.
What role has sales played in building your future? So obviously, sales was at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Continuing on in your career, what was the role that sales played in that?
Yeah, it was really about networking and meeting folks and really understanding kind of how business operates. So when I was in sales, the large majority of my career was in IT, like technology consulting. So I took what I learned from tech on the help desk and through product, and then I ended up selling consulting services, but technology ones, to lots of different companies.
Like
So much
Booz Allen,
like
Cap Gemini type stuff. Who'd you?
yeah,
Was it
exactly. Yeah, it was a number of a smaller mid-tier
okay?
consulting firm, but it was still one where we had big customers. So I got to go into the AIGs of the world and the Goldman Sachs of the world and
Very
the
cool.
KPMGs of the world, and and so then you see like full like okay, what do these companies do? How are they tackling their challenges, right? So sales opened up that door for me to be able to get that full business view of how companies really do what they do and why they're good at what they do and why they continue to do well. And then some companies that didn't, because I was also through the 2008 crash and where all the
Hmm.
companies that we no longer talk about, Bear Stearns
Right.
and
Right. Lehman
Lehman
Brothers.
Brothers and all that good
Yeah.
stuff. So you learn a lot. And when you take kind of all those pieces, it helped to kind of connect those dots. So I went from sales to running business units, and really being able to take all the things I learned from all those companies, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right.
Tried not to replicate the bad or the ugly, and tried to double down on the good, and used my contacts to help me kind of learn along the way and bring some of that good stuff to the companies that I was working at.
Well, the friends that I've had that both worked on Wall Street but also sold to Wall Street have given me all great stories, not like horror stories. I'm sure there's a bunch of those as well. But what they loved about, like I had a buddy out of business school that sold market research to Wall Street, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, and he said, "Man, it's easy." I said, "Do tell. I'd like to know how it's easy." And he said it's very transactional. Like if you can show value in the first 2 or 3 minutes,
That's
they
right.
they they're in. Like it's not a
Yep.
long drawn out. Like I have this bit about people that want to sell to HR. We talk to a lot of companies, and so it's like I don't want to sell to HR. I'm like, yeah, no one does. So you're not alone. But like to finance, especially high finance and investment banking, man,
Yep.
everybody's giving me the kind of the same background of like, get there quick, get to the value, get to the
That's
price.
right.
Like, boom, just get it. Like, this is what it is. And
Yep.
again,
Yeah.
they either are going to like it and love it and move forward, or they're not. Or they'll just say, yeah, not now. Yeah, we're not going to do that. Okay, that's a
Yeah.
fast
It's
no.
true.
Is
Yeah.
that was
But
that your
that's good though, and they need that. It's very much, yeah. The pace there is super high. You know, these guys are and gals are making decisions based
right?
on what to trade, how to trade, like in seconds. Like,
Yeah,
you think they can't figure out whether they want to spend $1 million with you or not in 2 minutes? They got it. Like, you know, you either hit the mark with what they're looking for at the moment. Your timing, your product has to be right, price has to be right, but it's usually not price. It's usually product and timing, and then
right.
price kind of comes second because you just
Yeah.
got to be able to get it in. And yeah, that's absolutely it. And you learn that early on, and you're smooth sailing.
Oh, that's excellent. That is so excellent. Ryan, did you have a question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to get into. You mentioned, I forget how you presented it. You talked about you leveraged the good and the bad
For sure.
of of what you've learned and some of the people. I love to get into mentorship at some point. If we want to do that now, we could jump
Yeah,
into
let's
that.
go.
I love
Because
to. I always
how to read the
yeah I
room.
always yeah, I'll read the room, baby. No,
I mean,
I like to learn about I like to talk about mentorship, especially at an executive level. How did you leverage mentorship today?
Yeah.
How did you leverage it back then? But what is that difference? How does that change along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a little bit of different philosophy than I think a lot of people do. There's a lot of companies out there that are matching and
yeah,
kind of setting things up.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need that framework.
right.
That's not how I approach it, and it's not how I have approached it in the past. Is I feel like the person who desires mentorship or wants to learn needs to find the people they want to learn from. And you have to be bold enough to be able to ask that person
Hmm.
if they will provide their time, whether it's, 10 minutes a week or a half hour a month or whatever it is. And you have to be purposeful about it. And you have to tell them what you want to get out of it, what you're looking for, what made you excited to kind of ask the person, and then, be respectful of their time. But in doing that, I found that people would want to spend more time to
Right.
help me like learn and educate, and would offer up other things. And like really good mentors will be able to tell you if that's in their wheelhouse and they can kind of really help you in this particular thing. Or in many cases, I've been like actually saying, you know what, you should probably talk to so and so. And so then I've been introduced to kind of other folks, and it's been, a really nice journey to do that. But it's got to be a self starter. You got to want
Yeah.
it. Kind of goes back to that passion. And if you really do want to learn or you want to understand something, I think like a mentor is kind of like a little bit of, learning something for dummies, like the cliff notes of how to get something done,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Right.
you're taking years and years of their experience and you're asking a pointed question. They're giving you that answer, and it's an answer that's built on that experience. So it's probably pretty rock solid. But also they hopefully are giving you pointers on, how you can take that information and morph it into something more for yourself and or for others. And I find that is a really good way to think about it. So I've had people come to me and specifically ask me like, hey, can we do a coffee talk like once a month? I just love to steal 15 minutes of your time. And yeah, absolutely. But strangely, I have not had a lot of self starters come and ask me. I've had more people
100%.
come and ask me like, we need a mentorship program here and we need to
No.
really
Right.
drive this. And I'm like,
No.
do we? Okay. So
Nah.
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
Two questions.
that's always been the go ahead. I would say that's always been the rub on my side
Yeah,
has
me too.
been. I mean, because we've talked about this, where people
Forced
just say,
relationships.
yeah, forced
Right.
relationships, which is obviously Joel what you're talking about, but also when that moment of somebody wanting mentorship and not going to Joel, for example, and saying, "I just want to pick your brain."
Yeah.
Like, how do they? What's that ask? How do they ask that? I feel like people struggle with that on how to
Yeah.
ask someone to be a mentor.
Yeah, it is. It's hard and it is bold, but you just gotta kind of put yourself out there and realize that vulnerability is a strength. And if
Right.
you are truly asking for something, you are in a vulnerable state. And it doesn't matter how you ask. It really, really doesn't. It's
Right.
just, I have noticed you do this. I like this. And I would like to learn how to do this for my role. And then how can I get to that next role? And so it's really simple about what did you like? Why do you want it? And then how can you use it? And,
Yeah.
and a people will figure it out and have a good conversation flow from there. But you got to put yourself out there. And that is the hardest part. It's not asking how, it's actually just scheduling the meeting or
Yeah.
sending the text or sending
Right.
the email or whatever it is. And it's just like, oh my gosh, it's like dating all over again. Like, oh,
Yeah.
are they going to
Yeah.
respond? Are they going to care? But
Do
here's
they
the other
love
thing.
me? Do they really
Do they
love
love
me?
me? Right, exactly. Am I accepted? But don't give up, because a lot of times
100%.
senior level people they're
Yeah.
busy and they're not
Hmm.
answering because they don't want to. They may have missed it. It may be something that popped up. And so be persistent. If you want it, get it. Use your drive to go get what you want.
I 100% agree. I think the thing for me is if pick your brain is code for waste of time
Right.
for me. It's like when I hear
Yeah.
the phrase, in fact, I wrote an article on LinkedIn about it 100 years ago. I'm like, yeah, don't ever say that to me. Like if
Yeah.
you come with something specific, like William, I'd like to know, boop, whatever that is, I'll carve out whatever time. I'm good. But I got to have an
Yeah.
agenda. In fact, I worked with a guy 100 years ago where you could not put a meeting on his calendar unless there was an
Without
agenda.
an agenda. Yeah. I've heard
And it's
that.
like
Yeah.
he just
It's
wouldn't
good.
like. Yeah, it
Hmm.
is. It is for some. For others, I'm sure it's depending on the role, whatever. So two questions. One is the mix of your mentors in terms of male, female, etc. And the
Mhm.
second is the difference between mentoring and coaching
Yeah.
for you.
Yep.
What's so answer in any way you like. We're good.
Yeah, so no, I mean the mix is a mix. There's I would say it's probably 50-50. And I would say it's all over. It's I would say early stage career seekers, and it's also mid and later stage. And it
Okay.
really just depends. And I think that's actually dovetails into the mentor versus coach, because I think as you get a little further along in your career, I think it naturally evolves to more of a coaching, because you've got pointed questions, you've got
Hmm.
pretty hairy, scary topics to cover
Hmm.
as you kind of rise up the ranks and do that. And a lot of it usually ends up around what my next career move should be. That's a very, very common answer. And that's usually when an individual is at an inflection point of, have I really hit my ceiling, or do I still have growth to go? And they're grappling with like, what is that next step? Am I being self-aware enough to know, like, maybe I have reached a level of and is there anything wrong with that? And the answer,
Right.
by the way, is no. In
No.
fact, that's wonderful self-assessment and realization. So I think that's when it really kind of starts to convert. Whereas you can coaching, you can have like a good kind of conversation that's a little more two-way. And you get more out of it that is in like a deduction of reasoning, as opposed to a direct answer of what should be done. And
Right.
I think that's really what I've seen kind of happen, especially with the folks that I talk to regularly.
So of the people of our age, what I've noticed with females is early stage in their career, a lot of their mentors were men. And then
Yeah.
as they get to a certain point, then they mentor a lot of women. So it's
Yes,
it's
that's true.
it's and which is probably just the stage or the timing of where we are in society. But it's cool to see. It's cool to see people that actually want to be mentors. Like I really have a lot of respect for people that want to get put themselves out there. But I think you're right. I think people to get there, you got to be aggressive, and you've also got to be vulnerable, which those two don't usually go hand in hand,
No, but you need
right?
it. You need
That you
it in
got it,
business, and you need it to be
got it.
successful. So the
That's right.
people that master that
Yes,
will go far for
because it's
sure.
confidence on one level, and at the same time, confidence it does not run parallel to vulnerability. You
No.
almost box that stuff up and just play your confidence and ambitious stuff. So I think okay. So after the consulting bit, what do
Yep.
we do? What did we do next?
Yeah. Well, that's where I ran a couple of business units. But in sales, I took a couple chances on
Ryan,
like
did you see?
like
Did you see how
startups.
she just kind of? I ran a couple businesses. Did you like a throwaway comment? Like, hey, I ran SAP. What, dude? Seriously,
No, it
what?
wasn't SAP. Nothing by any stretch. No, but it was
Ran a
really
couple
about
businesses.
connecting all the dots though. So
Right.
front office, I had the tech and product, right? And so didn't have kind of the margin, the back end, the operations. So I was like, all right, if I'm gonna really know businesses inside and out, I really need to
Okay.
have that full 360 view.
Yeah.
And so took an opportunity to do that, but it was built on my sales success. They took a chance.
That's
And
right.
that was also another thing that I would recommend to a lot of people who are earlier in their career, actually any part of your career. Have confidence in yourself, ask for what you want. And just
Mm.
because you haven't done it before doesn't mean you can't do it. Everybody has a first time, and show the people that you can do it. Because if you believe in it and you sell it with enough conviction, they will believe you and they will give you a shot. And that's what happened. So I was successful with sales, grew a
Well,
business, multi-million, from the ground zero. And I was like, now I want to run a business.
right.
And so, to do that, it is a little different because you go from high growth. Of course, you need profitability, but when you're starting, 0 to 25 million, like it's not really about as much profitability as it is growth. But then you have to flip at that point, and you have to basically get to a point where the business becomes sustainable. And so that's where I pivoted to run some of those business units, and that's actually what took me to First Advantage. Was after I ran a few of those business units, they had brought me over to do that here, for some of the areas that just needed a little love. They needed a little invigoration, a little sales love, a little growth love, and a little bit of help with operations.
Well, one of the things that I think you've proven to me that I kind of already kind of had my finger on that success breeds opportunities. So, Ryan, you remember when we had she was at Allegis Group. She's been her whole career with Allegis Group, and she
Hmm.
was in sales, killing
Yep.
it. And then they had this opportunity to spin out a business, and she said, raised her hand and said, I want to run the business. And they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, of 100%. Like you've been killing it. Like you've killed it the entire time. Yes, of course you could go run a business. But I think that because you were successful in sales, like had you been mediocre or average to maybe slightly above average, I don't know if they would have. I don't know if that would have been an opportunity you would have been able to get. Right. So
No, I
it's
agree.
sales excellence that you
It's
have, and
anything excellence. And that's
good
when you
point.
ask.
You're
So
right.
ask at the top of your game. That's the other thing. I have a bunch of people that come to me to ask for things when they're unhappy. Worst time to ask for anything in business ever. I
There's
don't
two
care what
types of
stage of your career you're in.
it,
Yeah.
there's two types of
Terrible.
negotiation. Negotiating from a
Yeah,
position of
Yeah.
weakness or strength.
that's right. Right, but it's more like I'm very unhappy that I need to talk to somebody about fixing this problem, and it's like, yeah, you're not going to get what you want, right? But like at the top of your game, like that's why
So
you kind
great.
of have to have a plan in your head as to where you want to go in your future. So when you reach the top of your game and you're, Saquon Barkley, killing
Oh,
all of the rushing yards and yeah, I went there. I went there.
dude,
You know,
jumping over people backwards? Are you kidding
I
me?
Yeah.
that hurdle was tremendous, right? But like that's the top of your
Oh,
game, right? So that's when you ask for what you want, and that's when you ask somebody to take a bet on you, and you push yourself, and all of a sudden, magic things start to happen when you pick your
Right.
timing right. And that's a sales 101 thing, right? Pick
right.
your timing. Like, are they ready to buy? Are they ready to do something? And when there is an opportunity, ask. Just ask.
Yeah. Joelle, final question for me or
Yeah.
topic from me is
Mm-hmm.
about decision making.
Mm-hmm.
I like to get into decision making because I think it's an area a lot of people struggle,
100%.
being decisive, and curious to get your thoughts on this. One, how do you approach decision making?
Yep.
And two, kind of, does a leader need to be decisive quickly, or can they take their time in making that decision?
This is a great topic,
Yeah.
and of course, I'm going to give the horrible answer of it
It
depends.
depends.
Um,
It all depends.
but
Huh.
no, first of all, a leader has to be anybody. has to be able to make decisions, right? If
100%.
decision making is an uncomfortable topic for you in your personal life and your business life, then you have to work on it. Like this is something
Right.
that's necessary for it's a critical life skill that people have to be able to do. But I think what paralyzes a lot of people with decision making is the fear for making the wrong one. And so the way I've approached it and the way that I recommend others, approach it, and I've learned this through the years from lots of other people, is make a lot of small decisions quickly.
Right.
And
Fail
so
fast.
that when those small decisions add up, the big decision becomes pretty obvious because not all those little decisions are going to be spot on. And so you can pivot easily with a smaller decision. And then when you get to the point where you have to make that bigger decision, make it and
Right.
stand by it. But, you know, don't actually let it kind of run you. If it ends up being the wrong decision, fail fast, call it out. I've many times said that. I'm like, you know what? I said we should do this. We did. I'm not loving where we're going here. Like the
Right.
outcome is not
It was
where
my idea.
we got like, we reverse. We gotta pivot. We gotta get. But it should always be based on data and
Hmm.
information. But sometimes you just have to make it because the lack of a decision can be more detrimental to a situation, to team morale, to an
Right.
organization, to anything moving forward than making the wrong one. Make it. If you recognize it's not making the right one, change it. Don't be afraid to change it. That's another thing that I think another reason why people are so afraid to make the initial decision is like, oh, well, if I do this and what
Right.
happens? And it's like, nobody is perfect. It's not ever going to be 100% right. And so you just have to recognize that. And if you make a mistake, people aren't usually going to remember the mistake you made. What they remember is how you recover from it. And
Yep.
that part, that recovery from making a poor decision, is what will build so much brand equity for yourself and your business that you want to just, really make sure you enforce that with the people that have to make decisions in their business.
Love that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the analysis paralysis thing sits with me because sometimes people they want more data, and so they'll sit on the wire and they won't make a
Yep.
decision because they need more data. And it's probably a flaw in my character, quite frankly, but I make decisions really fast, like really fast, and I've got like a 50-50 chance on those being good decisions, but I make them fast. Like I don't reflect. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't like. Let me 24 hours before let me think about it. Do some research. No, I'm just going to make a decision, and again, I'll learn quickly. Like, if that was a bad decision, I forgive myself pretty quickly. Like, oh yeah, that was
And then
horrible.
do you pivot quickly too?
100%. I
See, that's
will.
perfect. That's all you
I
got to
will.
do. Just don't
I
be
will.
afraid of it.
No,
Yeah.
well, I've even told my sons, I'm like, if you don't make hundreds of bad decisions, then you're not trying hard enough. You're playing
Right.
it safe, and
Yep.
and you know what? You're never going to reach your full potential by playing it safe. You're going to have to gamble. You're going to have to try some things that are way
Uh,
outside your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
So, last question from me is through your career, but most importantly right now with First Advantage, what are the types of people that thrive around you? Like, what are their
Yeah.
personalities like? Do you like,
Yeah.
because I don't like people like me. So I'll just give you some context why I'm asking this question. In fact, I can't work with people like me. I like people like Ryan. And I like
Well,
people like my
obviously it's
wife.
working well, so
Well,
that's
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if I had another person that was like me,
Yeah.
I'd probably
He
quit.
makes the bad decisions, and I pivot those bad decisions.
You pivot them and get it
That's
going.
that's
Right? Nice.
that's what
I
he's
love it.
saying. Yeah.
There, there's a little truth in that, by the way. But there's
That's
the
great.
thrive,
Hey,
the
but you know
thrive.
what? You know what makes it work, right? And that's
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 right.
half of the battle, is knowing kind of where it fits.
I,
You
who
know,
thrives around you? What type of
here,
personalities? What do you need? What do you need
yeah.
around you?
So yeah, I found it's not necessarily about the type of person they are or how they approach. It's the pace.
Ah,
Like I find it really important to
oh,
pair
that's so
yourself
cool.
with someone who has a similar pace And then that will enable you to continue to kind of move things along at the level that you intend. You could be the most intellectual person, super cerebral, and have all the best ideas, but like to your point, if you have analysis paralysis or you can't kind of make that decision, then it's going to add friction to kind of the team
Right.
dynamic and the culture. So I found that to be a really important aspect when hiring, is to make sure the people that you're bringing in have a similar pace to the way the company is paced.
Oh, I
And
love that.
or where you want the company to be paced too, right? So a lot of people are like, oh, it's so slow, I got to move faster, right? So then don't hire the people that are comfortable with slow. Hire the ones that want to move faster, because then eventually all ships will rise.
I lied and said that was my last question. So, is that some of your upbringing? Is that something? Is that a Philly thing, or is that your dealings with Wall Street and dealing with kind of the East
It could be
Coast?
it could be both. I think it could also be region, for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just where I've been comfortable most of my career, and I call these folks, the folks that thrive here, the GSDers, the get stuff done.
Ah,
Whereas it's
yes.
progress over perfection. Like you're just always moving forward. You have to really kind of push yourself to kind of always just go to that next step, even if it doesn't look exactly the way it should
Right.
be, but the intentions are there and you're kind of going in the right direction. It works.
There's something regionality in there too, because I grew up in the South, and things are just slower. Like it's just, and even like I traveled all Central and South America, and it's very similar to the Deep South. Like just you don't get to business quickly. You're talking about family, you talk about everything. Like a dinner might be 6 hours, and you might not talk about business for 15 minutes at the very end. So like
Yep.
I've
Yep.
struggled historically. I've struggled with the East Coast because they don't even like they want to get to the point. You know the bit. They want to get to the point quick because they want to get on to the
I don't know
next
what you're
thing.
talking about, Lynn.
Exactly.
Would you
No,
just
but
shut up
I
and make your
really
point already?
exactly. That's what she's saying. She's like, all right, get it, I get it. Come on, let's go. But I really
Come on,
love
we're
the
at the top
pace.
of the hour. Let's go.
Yeah, I know, but I love it because I mean, first of all, that's real. I mean, somebody that's going to thrive around you needs to have that pace. So thank you
Yeah.
so much. First of all, thank you for
We
the.
do have people from the South on the team, by the way, and Europe,
Oh
who
yeah,
also has a very slow pace. But the
yes,
people who are in the team have the same pace. They have the same
right.
drive. They have the same ambition. And so, but they come at solving the problem completely different,
Yep.
which also makes it super fun.
Yeah. Um, Thank you, Ryan. You have anything else? Sorry,
No, Joel, thank you very much. This has
it's
been a
been
wonderful
wonderful. Yeah,
conversation.
This was a
absolutely.
lot of fun. I appreciate it. Thank you,
Well,
guys.
thank you for carving out time for us, and thanks to the audience. We'll see you next time.